All right, we are now live. This is how many virtual sessions are we at now?
Three?
This is number three. So we're like three-fourths of the way done. So so this is the Developing with Technology virtual session for, let me see, Calhoun, Coldwater, Hillsdale, and Jackson. And we are going to be talking today about photo editing tools as well as productivity tools. And because things get going pretty fast here, I just want to jump right in.
Ann has no audio.
Anne has no audio. Okay.
And that's our only live gal. I don't know. Oh, she's leaning to do something, it looks like. By the video.
Waiting. Any luck yet now, Anne? Is that still no audio? Okay. Well, I mean, I can hear all of us.
Yeah, there's something on her end that's probably come unplugged.
Okay. Can one of you try to troubleshoot that while I go through some of the business items?
Yep, I'm on it.
Okay. All right. Thank you much. All right. So while Gina is saving the day, just want to go through a few business items on what to expect now that things are winding down, which is pretty crazy. The end is near. We are going to be done pretty soon. So I was just looking at some of the things that we have coming up. So thing 5, that has just kind of the due date of the 7th, which is tomorrow. So if you want to be caught up, you should be done with all of those things by tomorrow. Otherwise, it's going to be kind of a mad dash to the finish there. Thing number 6, that has its due date on the 11th, so that's next week. And thing 7, the final thing that we're working on, opens up pretty soon. Our last virtual session is going to be next Thursday, which is pretty crazy. So what we're going to need to do is, once again, is make sure that you're just kind of plugging away at some of those assignments. A little bit every night really goes a long way. So let Melinda, Gina, or myself know if there's anything that we can do to help you out, because like what we talked about last week is that you guys are doing a fantastic job, and it's been really fun to kind of see the interactions that are happening, and you guys are going above and beyond with that, so keep it up. The one that we need to make sure, or the one thing that we need to make sure that we do, is on the reflections, we have kept it we've kept it pretty broad in how you can do that. Most of those have been text. I got an awesome one from Brianna Crawl down in Hillsdale. She did one of hers as a Prezi, and it was really cool to kind of see just somebody trying something else out. So yeah, just make sure that you're really kind of going into detail on those reflections. We don't want to put word limits, but if it's only a few sentences long, you should probably try to go a little bit more. So what we're going to talk about today are things 4 and 5 with the digital images, and also with productivity tools. So what we're going to do is, I really want to focus on something for sorry, I'm trying to look at the group chat and see if we've got everybody in there yet. But what I want to do is focus on some of the classroom, the teaching and learning applications for these. So the first one is with the digital images, and Anne is going to share some of her things if she can hear us. Okay, so we're going to hold off on that while we have some technical difficulties. But what I want to do here really fast is share a really great blog post. And I just saw this morning. Ben Rhymes, who's over on the southwest part of the state, he teaches in Mattawan, and he just does a fantastic job of really going in depth on some of his blog posts. But the one blog post that he wrote today was titled, oh, the killer app for the iPad. And what he was talking about is he kind of rolls his eyes a little bit when people talk about finding the perfect app for fourth grade math, or the perfect app for high school chemistry, or the perfect app for teaching kids how to read. And we've all heard that. And Gina, I don't know how many times you get this, but it seems like a lot of times I do get teachers coming up to me wanting to know what's the perfect app for blank. And Gina, we all kind of chuckle just because Apple has done a very good job of promoting that whole idea of there's an app for that, and almost too well. But Gino, what do you do whenever you have somebody that comes up to you and says, Gino, what's the perfect app for blank?
I laugh. That's the first thing I probably do. And they get that. They don't always realize how many apps are actually in the App Store. Ann's in
You
business.
got it.
So I laugh and then I go, what exactly are you trying to do? Because a lot of times it's very general and they say, what's the best math app for first grade?
Mm-hmm.
And what is there a specific skill that you're really trying to focus in on? And then we will work through the apps. We will also not every one of them by any means, but we'll go to some popular blog posts and people that I know are just up to their knees in, actually more than their knees, up to their eyeballs in iPad apps, and say, what are we seeing recommendations out on blogs? Let's narrow our choices and go check those out first. So that's how I start with teachers.
Yeah, I think it's really important that whenever we talk, whatever tool it happens to be, in this case we're going to be talking about photos and other things like that, but whenever somebody asks that question, what's the perfect app for, I always, just like you, I always ask, well, what is it that you want to do? And talk more about the teaching and learning aspects first. And that's where Ben's blog post came in that I really enjoy. And I'm gonna share my screen here in a second, just so that you can see this. So this is his I'm starting here. This is his blog post, the iPad's killer app, and what he says is that whenever he tries to describe the perfect app for the iPad, he says it's the camera, and I agree with that. I really think that one of the most powerful functions on whether it's an iPad or if it's your camera, whatever that happens to be, it's the camera, because what that allows us to do is to capture learning and to demonstrate learning and to do that in a very visual way. So one of the things that he did was he started collecting different examples of how teachers are using the camera to kind of demonstrate understanding or to show understanding. So this one that I want to show you right here is a list of some of those things that he got from other teachers. And you can kind of take a look at this. I'll put a link in the Moodle course here in a little bit for those who are watching this after the fact. But once again, the thing that I liked so much about this is that it was giving the students a chance to show what they had learned, to demonstrate what they'd learned. And the camera is perfect for that. In fact, one of the things that I used to do is at the end, well, my background's teaching high school chemistry and physics, but one of the things that I used to do at the end of every unit or every lesson, well, is to give them what were called a you choose assignment. And the premise of that you choose assignment was just, here's the learning objective. You pick a way to show me what it is you've understood or what you've learned as we've talked about this. And I would give them 5 or 6 different options. And one of those options was always to create a 1-minute video demonstrating this in some way. And it was really fun to see the students who chose to go that route because they had a lot of freedom to kind of demonstrate that. And I'd have a rubric and everything else that would go with it just to make sure that they were doing what they were supposed to be doing. But I was amazed at what my students would do when you put a camera in their hand and gave them the freedom to kind of find ways to show that. One particular student, just a fantastic girl, but she had some learning disabilities. And if I were to give her a multiple choice test, she would really struggle with that. But one time I watched her come up with a dance to show how to balance chemical equations, and it just blew me away because I could tell that she understood that. And that's where I really started to appreciate just how powerful the camera can be. So anyways, back to what Ben had put, the visual representation of knowledge. He had teachers from across Michigan just add what they thought. So this first one here, the creating metaphors, and just using different images to create metaphors and to demonstrate those. I think that's a great way to use a camera. Some of the other ones, and these would be for younger students, just the idea of taking pictures and just showing how to find a sum, or identifying short vowel sounds, or giving just any time you want to find an example. The camera is a great way for students to be active participants in their learning and to really demonstrate what it is they've understood. Here's another one that I've done before when we've been talking about trig and things like that and angles, is to get students to go out with a camera to take different pictures of, let's say, 90-degree angles, and then to actually go through the sine, cosine, tangent, and to find some of those different values and things like that. It's just it's a great way, once again, to get students thinking about what it is they're learning. So let me stop sharing my screen there and turn it over to Gina. Gina, thanks for putting the links in there, but what are some different ways that you've seen teachers using images or video effectively in their class?
I think a lot of what you kind of described, Dan, is just letting kids show what they know. That's been really almost revolutionary for a couple teachers that I've worked with. They're amazed at, and I probably tend to work with more of the K2 population with the iPads at least, because they have the camera all built in, and I'm in a K2 building that has one-to-one iPads. So the other thing that I see my kindergarten teachers working with their kids is as they learn their letters, they go out around the school building and even outside. Where do you see this letter? So at first, it begins with, oh, I see this letter in a street sign or on the outside of my building because it's in my building name. But then some kids will even go more abstract and say, oh, look at the way those two branches cross. I think I see a letter, I see a T. And so that's when it really gets powerful. And it's just a ton of fun to see them seeing those letters out in the environment in different ways.
Yeah, and you think about the cognitive levels there. When students start recognizing patterns in other things where they're making those connections where where they're not intentionally there, that when it comes to higher order thinking skills, that's right up there. I think the whole idea of making thinking visible and getting students to become active participants is the camera is just the perfect way to do that. I know some teachers say, well, it's going to take a long time, or it's going to take just I don't have time for all of that extra stuff. And it makes me a little bit sad when there's that attitude, because I think that when it comes to how deep you can get into something, this is a great way to do it. Now, Anne is one of my rock stars over in the Jackson County. She's over at Jackson High, and she's going to share a little bit of what she does in her her classroom with images. So, Anne, how's it going?
It's going fine. I don't know exactly what you want me to do, but I'll show you what I have.
That's exactly. Just show us what you have.
Okay, well, I teach Photoshop, digital scrapbooking, and yearbook, and I will show you some things that I have my Photoshop kids do. They start with a website called PicMonkey, and I'm assuming I have to share my lovely screen with you, and I'm trying to find that.
If you go over on the left-hand side and
I
look
think I
for
got it.
there you go. And it's going to make you choose which one you want to.
So that's okay. I'll go to my PicMonkey.
Okay. There we go. I'm seeing it now.
And PicMonkey has been wonderful. The kids love it. As you can see, it will create a collage. It will let you design different size projects, even that lovely Facebook cover. It will let you do some immediate touch-ups of photos and regular editing of photos. And I'm just going to go ahead and click on Edit and pick a lovely photo. And they have a series of categories along the side here that, of course, you can hover on and see what that category is called and all the subcategories that are underneath it, such as rotate. I want to apply that. Some effects. Some of these I don't quite understand what they do, but they're neat to try out. That just seems to darken it. I can touch up. I love the wrinkle remover and the airbrush.
And I think you make a really good point that, you know, there are so many different things to be able to do to a photo that you don't know necessarily what all of them do, but that's what excites the kids about using it, is that, well, you don't know about it, but they're going to go explore that. And I've seen kids get really excited. It's like, oh, no one knows what that does? Well, let's go find out. So that was a really good point.
Very true. To hone in on that, I will let them explore the themes without telling them much directions. And of course, with high schoolers, they're into vampires and zombies and demons. And I don't advise this for any younger kids, because there are certain things that you can do here, such as blood splatters, and adding them to your lovely photo. But they like to mess around with that. I shouldn't say mess around with that. Investigate all of the things that are available in PicMonkey. But there are many tutorials for PicMonkey that you can have your students go through. Here's an example of one that I give them. It's about making a collage. That they can pick the photos and a template, and it immediately puts the photos into those slots. They can put the shapes, they can add the text, and then they have their finished collage. It's very quick, very easy to understand for the kids, no matter what reading level or understanding level for them. I can show you a collection of my students' work using PicMonkey. This is where they take a celebrity who does not have any makeup on and make them look like they're on the red carpet. This is an example of her collage. Another example of a collage. An example of her flying, where they had to merge two pictures together and develop the shadow. They had to put text filled with a picture. Multiple exposures, where they put several layers of other pictures on top of another picture. A color palette, so that you could pick out the colors from a painting or from whatever. I tell the kids this is hot for brides who want to have a color scheme for their weddings. Nip and tuck, where they can exaggerate characteristics of any photo, whether it's a pet, a person. They can take a black and white photo and add color back to it. They can make several different designs. This is from one of the snow themes, that they can add snow to the picture, all these figurines, some writing to make it into a postcard or a card. They can use something called eye tint to color in objects but still keep their texture. You can still see the texture of the shoelaces through the eye tint. And let me know if I'm doing too much here. They learned how to do a watermark so that no one would steal their photography from them. And of course, this is one of the themes. She picked devils, and I'm sure that's a zombie. And we're back to the beginning here.
Well, that's great stuff, Anne. It's been really fun to see what your students have done, because like I consider you that when it comes to the visual design and other, you're the expert here. And it's been you can deny it all you want, Anne.
I learn every day, especially from my kids who like to go and investigate other things.
But I think that's part of the fun, or that's one of the great things that you've done, is that you've created an environment where they're able to explore, where they're able to try stuff out, and that goes a long way. So thanks for taking the time to put that all together. That was great.
Well, very good.
All right.
Crowd clapping.
So you know what? While Anne was talking about just some of the different things that students could do and kind of get into, I remembered one thing that was pretty cool, because Instagram is huge. In fact, it was really interesting because I was talking to some teenagers that I know, and I asked them, okay, so how many of you are on Facebook? And they all rolled their eyes, because now that mom and grandma are on Facebook, they're not there anymore. And I'd ask them, okay, well, how many of you are on Twitter? And a few more were on Twitter. But I asked them, so what do you guys use? And the overwhelming majority of them said, we're on Instagram. And Instagram is one of those apps that's just for your phone. And it's really interesting to see how that has taken off, because you can really, I mean, that's an app that revolves around you telling your story through pictures. And I was at a middle school, in a middle school Spanish class, and it was really fun because the teacher had let the students bring in their own phones. She'd gotten approval for that and everything, and those who had Instagram were going around and they were taking different pictures to show different emotions, and then they would be able to kind of like tag that or just put that, write the Spanish word for that in there. And it was really neat to watch them do what Anne had talked about, where they go in and they just try different things out, because Instagram and a lot of these other photo editing things, that you're able to put those different layers on top of things, and it is interesting how that really affects the mood of the picture. And it was fun to watch these kids all be engaged, all kind of comparing what they've done. And when we talk about engagement and students being active participants in the learning process, that was there. So I'm just, whatever it is that you can do to bring in cameras into your classroom and let students kind of demonstrate what they understand, I think it goes a long way. So that's it for editing photos. Now we've got the other thing, which is productivity. And let's see, Gino, some of the things that were in there were Zamzar, which is the file conversion site. We had Google Calendars, and what's the other one that I'm missing?
Actually, I was just in there because I was answering a question, so let me jump back in. Gosh, I know there's a bunch of stuff under additional tools, and we just got through posting, making sure the Google Calendar. So, Dropbox.
Yeah.
So Dropbox was a big one, and we talked about it being Melinda's favorite, and Gina really enjoys Dropbox an awful lot too, and her husband, and that's how I back up all my photos. I have my phone. I don't carry a camera with me anymore because it's in my pocket. It's part of my phone, and every picture I take, I've got my phone set up so that automatically uploads the photo to Dropbox, and then I switch phones or something happens to it and I drop it and it's all of a sudden a dead phone. I've preserved all of my pictures. And I have a grandchild, and she's the first one, so
Oh man.
gotta save all of the pictures of the grandbabies.
So it's really interesting when it comes, because Dropbox is by far my favorite as well. It's just it's saved me so much time. But the whole idea of cloud computing, and now that we've got kind of like an arms race in terms of cloud storage with Google Drive saying that they're giving students and teachers, anybody that has a Google Apps for Education site or a Google Apps for Education account where they have unlimited storage. That's going to be kind of interesting. Now, there's some differences when it comes to productivity when you're saving files in Google Drive compared to Dropbox. And what I love about Dropbox is that it saves the file as that file. There's no conversions or other things. So that's been really nice. But with Google and Dropbox kind of fighting a little bit over how things are saved in the cloud, I think we end up benefiting ultimately just because it's just going to drive the price down. And like right now, I pay $100 a year. I get a terabyte of storage on Dropbox, and I know a lot of people who don't pay anything to Dropbox, but who have shared it enough times where they have like 16 gig worth of free storage, which is quite a bit. So Gina, besides Dropbox, what is your favorite?
I'm just going to go hang my head because I'm one of those. I have all the space on Dropbox, but I just lost 22 gigs because I switched phones, so it's all good.
Ouch.
Anyways, I interrupted you. Sorry.
No, you're okay. This is how we roll. What besides Dropbox? What's your favorite productivity tool out there?
That's a tough one because I almost want to say Evernote, but I can't tell you that I am a diehard Evernote person. But I find depending on which device I'm on, if I'm on my iPad at home in the morning and I'm going through Zeit and looking at articles that relate to instructional tech or new tools that are showing up in my Zeit feed, I tag them and send them to my Evernote account. But do I do that on my laptop or a computer? No, I don't do that. So I haven't been totally bitten by the Evernote bug, but I definitely see its usefulness. And I know some teachers use Evernote with their students as well.
Yeah, I'm going to stop asking you first for what your favorite, because I was going to say Evernote. I have been bitten by the Evernote bug just because it kind of started a few years ago when I was first getting into my role that I have now. I was amazed that I would go to these meetings and I would watch administrators and teachers typing notes in their email so that they could send it to themselves and have a record there. And as I was trying to figure that out, but they wanted to have a copy of it, and Evernote does that for me. It gives me that copy that I can access from any device as long as I have Evernote on it. The thing that I love about it is I can add images, I can add links, I can add all sorts. I can add audio, which is really nice. And even depending on what device you're using, if you have Evernote on an Android tablet, you can even add written notes to it, which is really, really cool. So yeah, Evernote is the one that I do all of my note taking on. Whenever I'm at a conference, whenever I'm with an administrator or another teacher, I'm using Evernote to take care of all of that stuff. I would say, because once again, Gina, you're stealing my thunder. Zeit's good. I really like Feedly because I was back in the day using Google Reader a lot. So if I'm in the morning and I'm getting ready to run and I'm just kind of sitting there trying to wake up, I'll go to Feedly and look through some of the the blog posts that I follow and just kind of check it that way. So.
Well, I will admit that I have just a small addiction to my Pinterest account for the purpose of archiving infographics, because I am a self-proclaimed infographic junkie. I just think that they're powerful tools for education that bring in a lot of the data side, and I think that as they get easier to create and people understand what the components of an infographic can be, I think we'll see more and more of them pop up in education. But you mentioned at conferences how you open Evernote, and see, we still are in the Google Docs phase, so there might be 4 or 5 of us at the same conference. We open up a shared Google Doc, and then everybody just types in what session they're in, and we have group notes for the conference. And so, I mean, that's the kind of stuff we're doing, but yeah, we probably need to explore Evernote just because of the whole images, and you can just create and share and capture so many other pieces as well that I think are powerful. So, yeah, a couple others.
Lots of options, and I think that's a good thing. Well, I think that is quite a bit on editing images. It's quite a bit on productivity tools. Anything that we're missing, Gina?
I don't think so. It looked like we were pretty well covered in productivity tools, and some people might have other ones. I know we also mentioned like Zoho. I've used Zoho occasionally, but again, in my mind, Zoho always competed with Google Docs, and I knew Google Docs, it's very robust, it keeps updating, so I didn't ever have a need to switch over to Zoho for anything. So, but it might work in your district. You might have a Zoho district, so that might work too.
All right. Well, sounds good. Well, I think we will sign out for now, and next week's the last one. So everybody, thank you for either watching it live or watching it after the fact. That's part of the beauty of doing a virtual session. But remember, the end is coming. The end is near. Let's make sure that we get all of our stuff done, and we'll be all set. Have a great night.